This is the Sluggo, slant and go.
College football expert Joel Klatt. Tell America the name of your favorite podcast.
It's called Sluggo.
Creek, Zach Locks, Parker. I know how Casey's weather's doing. Zach, how's your weather? Same. You live across the street, basically, right?
Yeah, it's just across a bay and a body of water and over the bridge into the woods. So it's not terribly far, but get a little breezy. It's coming. We all know where it is.
Okay, you guys laughed at me a few weeks ago when I lost power in the middle of the show. We'll see if we can make it to this 45 minutes of praising Zach for his Loch Ness monster, the Loch Ness monster. Casey, I don't know if you know this, but your former Clemson roommate is on a heater this year, 10-2.
Yeah, it's so funny, and everyone knows the story. Everyone that knows me knows the story about the fact that Locks was a nickname that wasn't necessarily something that it was kind of the opposite of how he's doing. So anytime he does well, especially the 10-2 clip, it's like, this isn't how it's supposed to go. So it's funny. But yeah, he's doing well. I'm going to be bankrupt in 2 weeks.
Well, I'll see if I'm trying to beat you to it, apparently. But the name of this episode is No Regerts, because I have no regrets about betting on Syracuse last week. And why, you may ask? Because the three of us were mad texting about a Syracuse-Virginia football game on a Friday night, which we would never have done without me betting 4,400 Sluggo bucks on it. And that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun for me. Came up on the short end. Of course, at the end, most of the texts were me crying and whining, cussing out Tony Elliott and all that. But it was still a lot of fun. So I don't have any regrets about going down, except I'm now below Casey in the standings, which is, yeah, exactly. That face. That is what I'm talking about. But no, it was a lot of fun on Friday. And I know it's never happened before. I don't think it'll ever happen again. I had the 0-1-2 record last week. I had not one push, two pushes. So I only had one loss last week. That's what I call improvement.
Huge. Yeah. Trending upward-ish, sort of.
Meanwhile, Casey had an 0-3 week. And I don't know, Casey. I don't know what to say. Luck is not on your side.
2-12. Locks is 10-2. I'm 2-12. 2-10.
2-10. Yeah.
You balance each other out. just like a happy couple, you balance each other out. And I'm 5-5-2, which is, I had the little, and we'll see it later, I had the little meh sign on my record last week. There's no more meh than 5-2. It sounds like I don't know, a 1970s NFL teams, something like that, when they used to have ties. All right. Hey, Clemson defeated Wake Forest 51-45 in double overtime last week. And Zach, you don't know Christian, but Christian's a guy I met writing on another site, and he writes on rubbingtherock.com for us now. And he was taking a 28-hour road trip in the car during the Clemson-Wake Forest game. He has no tie to Clemson. He played baseball at a college in Missouri. And, like I said, we met on another site, and he's helping us out on Rubbing the Rock. And by the time he got to Michigan from Seattle, he was all invested in Clemson and all excited and all wound up and said, it's a great game. I'm emotionally invested in Clemson now. And I said, not every game's like that. Good thing you didn't watch the last week, the Louisiana Tech cluster. But anyway, he got emotionally invested. What a great ball game. And we saw offense. We saw completed passes down the field, right? Wow, exciting. And Zach, you even watched. What was your takeaways from the Wake Forest game?
I was stunned. It was a great offensive output. DJ, I would say, easily the best game I've ever seen him play. It was fun to watch. And just the passing game reminded me of a Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson passing attack down the field. not just a little screen or what have you. So he was actually completing some great passes. The defensive backfield was a tough watch. We all know. I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute. But tons of penalties for the defensive backs. But if they don't make the penalty, it's a touchdown. So these guys were getting burnt really bad on quite a bit. It's probably 3 or 4 of them, I think. And the guys are going to catch it and go to the house. So a lot of respect for Wake Forest. Their quarterback can spin it, man. It's going to be a battle down Florida State, Wake Forest this weekend too, I think. And they're a good football team. It was fun to watch. I don't know how I made it through the whole thing. It was like having a heart attack all over, but it was a fun watch. I was glad to see it.
It was very exciting after watching about a year and a couple of games worth of mediocre offense. But like you said, the defensive backs, I don't think I expected them to be Deion Sanders out there, but they just kept getting toasted, like you said, over and over and over. And it looked to me like somebody wasn't helping out where they were supposed to be helping out, at least on a couple of those burns. Kevron checks in and says, "Good evening, everyone." And he's got a rental apparently for the weekend. Watch out on the roads of South Carolina.
Up there.
Mm-hmm.
Stay safe. Remember that Clemson football game with South Carolina? Notre Dame, Clemson, Notre Dame. So hopefully on Saturday it'll rain on both sides of the field, not just the opponent's side. Beef, what was your takeaways from Saturday's game besides a heart attack?
It was a heart attack. It was great, though. I talked to many people who were watching the game, family, some friends who kind of, other than knowing me, had no stake in the game, and said, "What a great college football game." And I think I could probably name off the top of my head 4 or 5 of those that Clemson's been involved in. Excuse me, that have been like that. But it's tougher when you are invested, kind of like Christian, to kind of step back and see that. But I thought the game was great. I think Clemson jump out to that 14-0 lead was huge. Really, they couldn't stop them on the next drive, when it was third and 13, I think, and then here comes the first pass interference call, and it was really downhill from there. And it kind of it was starting to remind me a little bit of the Syracuse game on that weird Friday night a few years ago that Clemson went up there and got beat. And Syracuse's game plan seemed awful familiar, or Wake Forest's game plan seemed awful familiar to Syracuse. Just throw the ball up, and the Clemson DBs will tackle you. Clemson on the defensive backfield has had this issue in the past, so I was a little nervous. And I told a Wake fan, a friend of mine, I said, all but one were egregious, and the other one was pass interference. So, I think the one at the end that went against Nate Wiggins could have gone either way. In a game that they weren't calling it probably wouldn't have gotten called, but it was still pass interference. I just felt bad for those kids. You figure it's got to get better. I think the Wake scheme kind of really hurt Clemson, but like anything else, other teams are going to try this. Whether or not they're going to do the mesh, they're going to try something to slow down, to stop those linebackers, because we know Barrett Carter, we know Trenton Simpson, we know those linebackers can straight up run. So when you're stopping their feet from moving, you have them won. I think we blitzed too much. I think we sent guys at the wrong time. But also, in the flip side, I think Wes Goodman really made some good adjustments, especially in the fourth quarter. I believe Houston said it in an article that he wrote, hence the shirt today. He made some really good adjustments in the fourth quarter, and it just didn't seem as easy. Those second and third quarters of Wake's offense, it was like I turned around a few times because you knew they were going to score.
Yeah, didn't take much forethought there. And I think, Casey, that last pass interference, that was just muscle memory on the referee's part, So he's just done this all day.
That happened. Syracuse had like 5 or 6 of them. When it's close, they're just going to throw it because they've been calling it all day. It's like those non-holding calls. If they're not calling it both ways, well, you know what? They're not going to call it. So that's okay. Deal with it. Same idea with pass interference. They were calling it all day, so now they have to keep calling. But offensively, I thought we were awesome. Wide receivers making plays, tight ends getting catches. DJ was great. Shipley was fantastic.
12 targets for the tight ends. How about that? 10 catches, 122 yards, and 3 touchdowns from the tight ends. And Zach didn't even know who Jake Brenningstool was because he'd never seen him catch a pass before. And I'm not cracking on you because a lot of people hadn't seen him catch a pass before.
And that's why I responded with just your run of the mill, just another run of the mill 4-star tight end, because and I think some services had him as a 5. He was
somebody had him as a top tight end in the country.
Did they say why Shipley? He largely sat out the second quarter, maybe into the third a little bit. Was he hurt, dinged up, or anything? But I mean, he came back on fire in the second half. Or was he just?
He did get dinged on one of his runs where he kind of came up slow, but then once he got up, he sprinted back to the sideline. But I think that was also he had Kobe Pace because Spiller likes to rotate the running backs,
which I keep him fresh. It's great, but it just seemed like he missed a whole quarter, and I was like, oh boy, he's hurt.
And then Pace got hurt, so
back in. Okay.
But I think they're starting to play hot hand, and I'm sorry, it's hard to keep Shipley out.
Yep.
Well, absolutely. It's like I was joking with Zach on the text about Brenningstool, and I think it was Davis Allen. I said, well, he's there. He would say, who's that? And I said, well, that's this guy. He's so good they don't play him. It seems like that at times, right? That like somebody's really got a hot hand and they take him out. So, who knows what's going on. And I certainly understand from my time 157 years ago at Clemson with Flowers and Flagler and Stacy Driver and those guys in the backfield rotating. I don't think they got more than 9 or 10 carries a game. So, but Casey, you made a great point. The receivers had a great game, 0 drops, 0, at least per Pro Football Focus. And they were catching some wild passes and in wild positions over their head and over their shoulders and everywhere. So it was a great job by all of the receivers, the running backs, the tight ends, the wide receivers, as you said. Good, exciting football game, which we don't see a lot of as Clemson fans, especially last year. I mean, there's a lot of close ones, but they weren't very exciting if you like offense and points. So that was nice to see. The defense is all banged up, we said, on the back end, getting some of the guys up front, but XT is going to be out, and seems like Trey Williams is a question, and Dabo questioned whether some of those DBs, he didn't mention anybody. He just said it was too early in the week to tell. So hopefully 1 or 2 will be ready this week. Hopefully somebody.
I just saw a tweet before we went live that said that you won't know until Saturday who's available.
Great. Zach, in another case of blue cans for you to get through the weekend with that news. So to get you to Saturday. All right. Oklahoma lost to Kansas State. And I don't remember if I sent it to you guys or we're in so many groups of football fans, but there was a story last week that said 5 teams that should be ranked ahead of Clemson, and one of them was Oklahoma first on the list, and then they go out and lose to Kansas State. And Zach let me know this, that it's the 3rd time in 4 years that Oklahoma has lost to Kansas State. So apparently it doesn't matter if Brent Venables is the coach, Zach. Sooners can't beat what are they? Wildcats.
Yeah. It shocked me. I tuned in just for the end there when it looked like it just wasn't going to happen. I was just stunned, and everyone in the stadium was stunned too. I had picked the game. I had Oklahoma covering by, I think it was 13. Boy, that sure was a miss. So back to the drawing board. I mean, I hate to be Oklahoma's opponent this week. I think, is it Texas Tech? Maybe, I don't know who they play. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
TCU.
That's what it was. Yeah. So probably a beatdown coming because I'm sure Coach Venables had a few choice words after the game for the boys. So. They're not out of it with 1 loss to a decent team, but they're going to have to get some style points here to get the focus back on them, I think.
I heard a podcast before this, and they were talking about Venables, and they said that in his press conference this week, he said, we just don't have any linebackers. And that's got to kill him.
Kills him.
For Brent Venables not to have a 12th year senior like Skalski or Bullware or one of those guys, man, that's gotta kill him. But doing the best he can. And I think we knew there was going to be some growing pains, right? Just like with Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. Not saying that they're the same situation, just saying people expecting them to go undefeated in their first year were kind of unrealistic. So,
Right.
And I've talked to Palk about that. Casey, speaking, and that was Zach's only loss on the week, by the way, Oklahoma. And Casey, speaking of betting on a team and losing that bet, notice my bets aren't in here, but Southern Cal needed 14 points in the fourth quarter to eke out a 17-14 win over Oregon State. Kind of took a little luster off the Southern Cal shine that's been going on for the entire season now.
Yeah, now with my record at 2-10, you would think that I don't do any research for my picks, but however, my research
You would be right.
My research for that game was the most high-flying offense in the country, going up against a relatively Oregon State is getting better. They are getting better. They are not the pushover they were in the past, but I still thought that with that high-flying offense and the little semblance of defense that Southern Cal plays, that game was going to be at least a 15, 20-point game. And it was not even close, and I was not even close to being awake.
Yes, me too, I think. Your friend Bill Long checks in and says, Sooners.
He's not my friend.
For the Juggernaut team since Bosworth. Did he go to Seton Hall Prep?
No.
He's the only. We found him, Zach. We found the one guy. we found the one guy that did not go to Seton Hall Prep. I better shut up, or I'll be getting Bill Long ads in my email.
He's a mortgage guy, so you got.
I've probably already gotten him. Tennessee beat Florida. I didn't see any of this game. Now it's an SEC game, so I'm sure Zach has it on his phone and watches it at work. Zach?
Twice. Yeah. No. Tennessee. It was great. Couple of high-flying offenses back and forth. Fun to watch. 3:30 game. Everybody knows my love for the 3:30 game. Seton Hall forever. Exactly. I'm even getting ads on my Facebook now for Seton Hall just because I talk about it. It's incredible. But props to Tennessee. I mean, their quarterback got dinged a little bit and came back in the second half, played well. Now Florida lost to Tennessee and Kentucky, and they got a tough road to hoe still. Still going to have to play Georgia. Still going to have they have a tough schedule ahead of them. Let's just say that. But Tennessee looks like they may be the real deal. I think a lot of offense on their team, and it was a riot to watch. I enjoyed it a lot. It was like back to back Clemson and this. I was like, okay, I'm full of football right now.
So wait a second. So Texas is not back.
No.
Miami we'll talk about in just a minute. They are so far from back. But Tennessee is back.
They might be back. They have a better chance of being back than the others. Yeah.
They've been gone the longest, right? In 1898 or something. I think they've been lost. And Zach led us right into it. Miami got nipped by Middle Tennessee State in the last minute, 45-21 or something. So, Casey, you're a Miami fan.
I was. I grew up
at one point. They're not back. Mario Cristobal did not solve every single issue that Miami had, like we were led to believe.
No, but they put up 31, so that was a good. That was better than the week before, where they threw up a 9. Like Zach's shirt 50 burger. I was talking and calling them 70 burgers last week, but yeah, I guess they're just not quite there yet. It's the same idea behind Venables. Maybe it's going to take, if Cristobal's this ace recruiter, and he has stole some recruits from other places, and the NIL rumors and everything like that are going down there. Maybe it will take a year or two. I think their fan base, all 20 of them, thought that they were going to be really, really good, really fast, and they still might be. But you don't lose to Middle Tennessee State. It's I think a first-year coach for them. Didn't Manny Diaz lose to like FIU or something a couple of years ago too?
I think so.
Those are games that Middle Tennessee is definitely better than FIU or FAU or whoever they lost to, but not by much. And it's a team that if you're paying somebody to come play you shouldn't and can't lose to them. So props to Rick Stockstill in Middle Tennessee. That's a former Clemson name too. He was at OC when we were in school. Zach, you don't remember that though?
No.
Is he still there?
Maybe not.
I don't know. I knew he was there forever, but I didn't know if he was still there. Now we talked about, fellas, in week 2 how it was such a bad schedule, and there were no good games, and there was just crazy, bizarre, wild, fun, exciting games that week. But this week, there's really not a lot to choose from. I mean, they're going in a hurricane, and they haven't changed their mind. There's no. Do you think there's good games, Zach? Am I wrong?
Oh yeah. No, there's about 4 ranked versus ranked games. I think.
Does that make it good?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in theory, should. I think it's going to be a decent schedule still.
Okay.
But I'm, the weather thing is obviously, we'll get to that when we get to the picks. Somebody may have not looked at the radar before they picked the game. That's me. And but who knows? It's flipped both ways. Like you said earlier in the years, great games on a week, and then on a great week, we've had some duds too. But it's shaping up nice, I think.
Well, there's Alabama, Arkansas. There's Kentucky and Ole Miss, so there's at least 2, SEC games for you there.
Right.
Florida State and Wake Forest, I guess. But I mean, and you never know. That's a good point, because, like I just said, I led into it by saying we thought week 2 was going to be crap, and it's a wild, crazy weekend. So I guess we'll have to see what it gives from us. But for Clemson, NC State, and Devin Leary, another good quarterback. I think, Casey, and help me out here, Case, I think Hartman's the better of the 2 quarterbacks. They're different quarterbacks, but I think Hartman's better, and he has better receivers. So, and the weather was better, right? So I'm not expecting the aerial show necessarily that we saw last week, but this is a really good quarterback that the Tigers are facing in Devin Leary.
He is, and he's a Jersey kid, Jersey product. We always know our own. He didn't. He's from that Timber Creek area, which I'm not sure where it is. Even though I covered. I don't know where I know where Timber Creek is in Orlando, but not there. Yeah, Devin Leary, he's thrown it at 64%. Last year he had that Emeka, the wide receiver that was really good, that basically single-handedly beat Clemson. He's gone. I think he's on the Jets now or something, where all NC State receivers go. You do have a decent running back. Leary has 9 touchdowns, two interceptions. He's been sacked a few times, so that kind of light bulb goes off that says maybe the offensive line isn't as good as they were a year ago, especially with that left tackle, Iquanu, that it's also in the league. They have a good running back, though, this Demi Sumo. These names are really tough for me. Thank God I just write the previews and I don't speak them. Karnbaye, but
just stop at a really good running back.
He's a really good running back. He has 252 yards on the year, 3 touchdowns, but he's also the 3rd leading receiver on the team, and that's really my point in my long-windedness. But the one guy you got to watch out for is this Thayer Thomas. Thayer Thomas had a couple touchdowns a year ago in the NC State win against Clemson in double overtime. I believe he caught the touchdown in double overtime to win it. He's back, and he catches everything. So he's a little scat back guy. Watch out, Thayer Thomas. He's good. They also have the Devin Carter kid back, too. He was kind of wide receiver number 3 last year. He's tall, lean, can go up and get it. And they're good. They're good offensively. It's going to be a challenge, especially the way that Clemson's defense was shown last week to all of us as fans. It's going to be a test.
Hey, there's a name we haven't seen in a while, Casey. Justin Lineweaver, and he's what do the kids say? He's cracking back at Bill Long's comment.
I like it.
Yeah, so we got a fight in the comments. And Casey, I think you found out why Dabo just goes by the numbers, right? He doesn't say Omeki Uga Huga. He says, 24, he's a player. I'll tell you, 24 is a player.
It's gonna be fun on the broadcast to hear these announcers try and rifle some of these off. I'm looking at them on my phone going, whoa, I see what Casey was talking about.
Yeah, that was my joke last week. I heard somebody call Klubnik Kubik. Kubik. And that's one of the easier names these days, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Justin says, hey, look at the average D that NC State has played against. They've struggled against the top 100 defense. Let's hope that
their defense is, they were the ones that laughed preseason. Peyton Wilson is the linebacker. I'm doing the preview for Rubbing the Rock, so I've been looking at their stats and watched a little bit of their films, not a whole lot, but I'm looking at their two linebackers, Drake Thomas and Peyton Wilson, and really it's Drake Thomas that's to me, my eyes, which aren't very educated on football linebacker play, other than just watching as a fan. Drake Thomas seems like the better linebacker. I don't trust their defensive front, so I think Clemson can run. Are skilled. The safeties come up and help out a lot in the run game, and they can hit. But watch out for those two linebackers. I think it's 32 and 11 are really their best players. So
use those numbers. And
their name though, Drake Thomas, Peyton Wilson. I know how to pronounce those two.
And I've heard North Carolina State. I haven't seen. I saw a few plays of the East Carolina because I became watching on. And that was a lot of fun. That game, they got out of there alive, but surviving advance just like Clemson did last week. But they're having trouble running the ball, so it should be a good matchup with the Clemson defensive line. Locks has a pick on the over/under that we'll get to, but as far as the game goes, Clemson, what is it, 6.5 now, fellas?
Yeah, looking at it right now.
Okay. Who are you thinking? What are you thinking, Locks? I mean, you don't even have to. You can save the over/under part, the exact score.
I mean, I was just earlier in the week, looking at weather, I was thinking, higher scoring game, more of a 35-30 type of game, something like that. But now that the weather has shifted things, I mean, I don't know where it's going to be at in relation to the over/under, which is now down at 40.5. I can still see some passing going on here. I mean, I think the defensive backs are still going to get picked on. There's a lot of tape out there after last week, so they're still going to try and take their shots. And if they burn the defensive backs from Clemson again, we're going to have to come right back and do the same thing. So I think there's still going to be some scoring, but more like a 28-24, maybe something like that. I think it's going to be within the number, though. I think NC State will cover it.
Okay. And Casey, your pick and my pick will come out on rubbingtherock.com tomorrow. I'm thinking close game. Yeah, close. I won't say which way I'm going, but a close game. How about you?
I agree. I think it's going to be within a score. I don't know if it's going to be NC State in the points, like Justin said. Not to foreshadow my pick, but I think it's going to be close. I really do think it's going to be within a score. There's something about these two teams playing recently that just, ever since 16, where they missed the field goal and Clemson won in overtime, I just feel like this game gives me agita.
Okay. I was like, what? Okay. Now we've gone medical. That Seton Hall is killing us. All right. As I said, Kentucky takes on Ole Miss, Alabama and Arkansas, Oklahoma, TCU. We talked about a little bit earlier. Texas A&M and Mississippi State, which Beef has a pick on, LSU and Auburn. Two ugly teams, but they're both 3-1, I think, right? Yeah. If I read that correctly. Right. Anybody got any thoughts on those games? Anything you want to say, or have I missed something, Zach? Again?
I'll say Arkansas just lost a heartbreaker last week to A&M, and this game is at Arkansas, and it was a tough game last year, Alabama Arkansas. So that might be a sleeper. I don't know if Alabama doesn't jump out to like a 24-3 lead, they can hang at Arkansas this year. It might be a fun one to watch. I like Arkansas. I love the coach. The program's building, so it was just tough. If they had won that game last week, Clemson would not have game day, I don't think, this weekend. So I kind of look forward to watching that one a little bit.
That makes sense.
I'm really interested. I'm really interested in the Texas A&M Mississippi State game now that I literally have stake in the game, and actually sold. I had 2 tickets to the game that I sold this week. So literally my money has been the line is Mississippi State -3.5, and that just really intrigues me. I don't know why. I don't know how. The Mike Leach factor. we know that Rogers can't run from my Pickwise Prince price.
Yeah. Minus
So
13.
he's just going to throw it around. That's a weird game for me, weird line. So I'm just curious. I'm curious to watch it because I want to see what Vegas knows that I obviously don't at 2-10.
Well, they know A&M doesn't have a quarterback, and their best receivers now out for the season. Did you not see him crying on the sideline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
at Mississippi State, obviously. So
yeah.
maybe
Cowbells.
that.
Cowbells.
All right.
Plenty of seats available, though, I'll tell you that.
So when you say your money's involved, you're not talking about Sluggo bucks, right?
No, this is like actual tuition bucks.
Yeah. I know.
Actually, I wish we're Sluggo bucks because I'd be.
You wouldn't want me throwing mine around like a fool like I have the last 2 weeks. But we'll see how foolish I get now, both those guys. It's
Don't
time.
think you could have done any worse if you tried.
Well, I take that as a victory.
These guys are doing research, so why should I? Beef, you stink the most.
A true believer in what they're doing in North Carolina. That's why I'm picking Virginia Tech, Tennessee.
I love Spencer Rattler.
I agree with Marty.
I don't like this.
Look, you smell it, the backdoor cover.
Backdoor covers they all smell. Justin says Alabama struggled on the road last year and this year.
True.
Bill Long, Hogs are going to be pissed after that A&M game. Bama.
Oh, he's a Bama fan.
Oh, here
He
you
is, yeah.
Bama. Oh, he's trying to. I see what you're doing, Mr.
RTR.
Here we go.
Okay, last week Locks went 2-1. As we talked about, he lost the Oklahoma game. Beef went 0-3. As we talked about, he lost every game. And I had the record of records last week. I only lost one game. And two pushes, which were incredible.
The second one was a sneaky one, too. I was like, wow.
And he almost got the push for Syracuse.
Yeah. Yes, if they were competent, I would have been 0-3. Locks is in first place, 10-2, smoking 15,470 Sluggo bucks. Incredible performance by Lock. And speaking of incredible performances, Casey is 2-10. He has 4,800 Sluggo bucks. And I am 5-5-2. I look at it and whatever. I got 4,167.10 Sluggo bucks. And here's how bad it's been going for me, fellas. I'm going to take Casey's advice and do one of those weird bets where I get rid of that 167.10.
To the even 4,800.
On one, I'm not sure of that. It's already, you're basically saying, okay, you got a loser. You're going to put the loser out there and say, this one's going to lose and get me back to an even number. And that loser is New Mexico State is getting Florida International 14.5 points. And I took New Mexico State, and I don't know why, because as Zach says, this game is on nowhere. You would have to actually be in Las Cruces, New Mexico to see this game. You cannot watch it on YouTube or anywhere, but New Mexico State minus 14.5. Let's get rid of 167.10 Sluggo bucks real quick. Beef, you're up.
Yeah, I got a Thursday night, a Friday night, and a Saturday game.
Pretty smart. Just space it out.
Spread out the misery.
I don't know what to do with myself now that it worked, and I went 0-3 last week, and I now have a clean number with 2 zeros next to it, and I don't know how to bet this week. I have no idea how to bet.
If you win one, it's going to screw up everything.
Yeah,
it's going to screw everything up. So hopefully I lose.
Just win, baby.
So I'm going to go with my big bet of the week. I'm going Thursday night's BYU-Utah State game. BYU is 24-point favorites. I just don't think Utah State is any good. I have a friend who's a Utah State alum, and he is so miserable about his squad. So that, with all that research being said, I'm going BYU minus 24 tomorrow night, 600 Sluggo bucks.
Nice. And John Chancellor, I'll have you know, I have been to Las Cruces, New Mexico. I've been to La Luz, New Mexico, and I've been to Hobbs, and I've been all around there. My brother used to live out in Midland, Texas. And if you guys think the United States is overpopulated, I dare you to drive out there. I drove 100 miles without seeing a car one time.
Wow.
And even more impressive, I drove 100 miles without seeing a Seton Hall prep graduate. Right. Locks, your first pick.
I'm going to start off with Georgia. Georgia, this is my big number of the week. Usually I always pick one. 28-point favorites over lowly Missouri. Georgia barely won versus Kent State last week. Just drug through that game. It was terrible watching. They lost a running back too, so they're about to die. Everybody's so mad. The guys all had to play a whole game. Poor things. But if you go back 2 games, they stomped South Carolina in conference 48-7. So we're back in the SEC. It is at Missouri. I think they'll cover. Missouri's probably worn out. They had a heartbreaker. They lost at Auburn last week. That was a tough loss too, just fumbling like out of the end zone. I think at the end it was terrible. But I expect a focused Georgia team to show up. I'm going to bet 750 sluggo bucks on the Georgia Bulldogs.
He's got them to spend, fellows. He's got 15,470. He's not worried about us 2 gutter rats over here, especially me. Okay, my second worst bet of the day. It only got 3. I'm going to go with USA.
Confused me so bad.
Locks did not even know who this team was when I put USA on the text. That would be the South Alabama Jaguars, and I forgot who they were playing. Casey and I even looked it up before the
Mexico State.
No, we already had that one.
Louisiana.
They're playing Louisiana. That's right. Louisiana is down a little bit, and I think South Alabama is a good team, and I read they were good. So I'm going to bet -6. I'm going to bet 1,500 on the South Alabama Jaguars because, Block said I could borrow some money when I go broke.
Yeah, so we're going to have to start negotiating those terms sooner than later.
1,500 South Alabama -6. And I've already started stocking up on the blue cans, and I've got Block's address so I can ship him the blue cans when I need some bucks. Beef, your second bet, Beef.
I really like Marty's plan this week of picking games that no one will watch. Because
not even me.
You can make it up.
My second pick of the week, we're going out west for the Friday night game. Chop and Beef Show's favorite quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. for Washington, is fantastic, has been really, really good this year. UCLA, they're good too. Still have Chip Kelly for the time being. But I just think Washington's hot, and probably the Pac-12's – it's probably Washington and USC as the Pac-12's only chance at a playoff. I like them at -3 for 100 sluggo bucks.
Ooh,
you really like them.
C-note, as they say.
Now, is this the real – okay, this is not the real bucks. Your real bucks are going to the next game. This one is 100 sluggo bucks. Don't do
the math here. So I did 600 and 100. I have 4,800. Where do you think I'm going?
$1.75.
Not to give it away.
$1.75. Locks, your second pick.
I'm going to go with the Clemson game. I did pick the over-under, and I felt really nifty about it. And I waited a whole day, didn't do any locks on Sunday. I was like, you know what? Look at that. It's only 46. And immediately, Marty chimed in and said, yeah, there's going to be a hurricane on top of the stadium. And I was like, I can't take that text back. I don't have that new phone yet. Yeah, that may have been a poor choice on my part. 46 down, like I said earlier, down to 40.5. My research on this game was based solely on the Weather Channel app. We're looking at 5 to 10 mile per hour wind, only a half inch of rain on Saturday. So I think there's still going to be some room for some passing. Side note, the one thing I didn't mention earlier that I've already checked too before the game is it's a 7:30 game. Maybe it's 8, one of the two. But Aaron Judge will not be playing at the same time as the Clemson Tigers, thank the Lord, because I don't know if I could take another at-bat during a Clemson game. I about cried during the 2-point conversion.
Is there any truth to the rumor that Ian Book is going to be the guest picker?
Man, the only thing that would have made that Aaron Judge thing worse is if Ian Buck was the one commentating it.
Exactly.
Right? Painful. So Judge will be on 1 for whoever's watching the 1 o'clock games. Anyway, I'm going to take the over. I feel more confident about it the more we talk about them. I'm going to put down another 500 on this one.
500 sluggo
Over?
On the over.
On the over.
Over 46.
Over 46.
Yep.
All right. And we can negotiate down to 40 if you'll let me borrow some bucks.
Good. I'll just
All right.
500.
Casey says nobody's going to be watching my games, but I can guarantee you Nelson will be watching my third game if it's on somewhere. Coastal Carolina giving 10 points to Georgia Southern. I need a win, fellas, and it seems like Coastal's the team to give everybody a win on covering the spread, right? I mean, they do it every week. They did it for locks. They better do it for me. No. But I also made this bet before I realized there was a hurricane. So I, too, could get bit by the weather, but Coastal can run the ball, so I don't think the weather's going to impact them. Coastal's giving 10 to Georgia Southern. They're playing in Myrtle Beach, not in Georgia. I'm going to take the Chanticleers, and for 1,500 sluggo bucks, give me a win. Teal Chickens. Casey, your third and final pick.
Rutgers is 40.5 point underdogs against Ohio State.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm going Texas A&M plus 3.5 against Mississippi State.
What a lead in.
Chancey took Rutgers.
I don't know why this line is this way, and I'm sure, based on my track record this year, that I am going to be very wrong. But this had sucker written all over it, and I jumped all over it like it was a fumble. Texas A&M, I know they don't have a quarterback, but I just believe that they're not going to lose to Mississippi State. I don't know. I'm going A&M plus 3.5 for 100 sluggo bucks.
Well, technically, they could lose and you could still win.
If I win any games this week, I'll bet bigger next week.
Casey, I'm sorry, I was making a joke. Didn't hear. How much did you bet?
100.
Going for the even 4,000, Marty.
When I go, I have to keep my money till the end, right?
Well, wait a second. How much did you go on the first one?
600.
I got 600, 100, and 100.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not 1,000, Zach.
No, it's 800 because I'm at 4,800, so I'm going to go for the even 4,000 when I go.
Got it. Sorry, man.
We're only on week 5. I need to save my money. It's like when I was in college and I had $18 to my name and still had 15 weeks of school left.
See, Casey, we're going at this the opposite. We both stink, but we're doing this the opposite way. You're like going, I got to make this last, and I'm going, I got to win. I got to win big. Despite my 5-5-2 record, I got big dreams, big hopes. Champagne, caviar, whatever it is. Locks, your third and final pick.
All right. I have taken this same exact bet earlier in the year when Kentucky played Florida, taking the Kentucky money line. This is like Casey was just saying. Kentucky is playing Ole Miss. I am a little surprised by this, that Ole Miss is favored by such an odd margin. They're favored by a touchdown now. I know it's at Ole Miss, but Ole Miss has played nobody. Troy, Central Arkansas, their claim to fame is being Georgia Tech. They survived Tulsa last week by a touchdown. Kentucky has arguably one of the best quarterbacks in college football right now. And not to mention, Chris Rodriguez Jr., 6th in program history in rushing, is coming back this week after being suspended for the first 4 games. I like Kentucky. I think there's an upset brewing. I think Kentucky's for real. I think I've been talking about it for a while. So go Cats.
How much?
I'm gonna go with $600 on this game on the money line.
$600. All right,
that's a nice payout.
It would be a nice payout if you win. And there we have it, folks. There's where we sit. Locks, Clemson, NC State over 46 for 500. UGA minus 28 for 750. Kentucky money line plus 210 for 600. I really like that. All joking aside, I like that bet, Locks, because you've got a huge advantage and you can take chances, and it's a really, really good chance. Beef, it's got some ice cubes by his name. BYU minus 24 for 600. Washington minus 3 for 100. Woo, going out on a limb. And A&M plus 3.5 for another 100. Me trying to get out of the cellar. I doubt it, but I got New Mexico State minus 14.5 for 167.10. We call that the beef special. USA minus 6 for 1,500 and Coastal minus 10 for 1,500. Good luck, gentlemen. And here's the thing. You guys laughed at me when I bet small. You laugh at me when I bet big. You laugh at me when I bet the good games. And you laugh at me when I bet the bad games. I'm sensing.
You can just stop after me.
Like to laugh.
That's funny. So good luck, guys. Good luck, Casey. Locks, I hope you lose every game. And I misnumber the amount you bet, and you're even with us. But anyway, you're doing it. It's been a lot of fun, and like I said, I don't regret betting Syracuse last week. It got us all involved in Friday night.
It was a riot.
Horrible game. But anyway, Beef, tell the people goodbye. Let's get out of here.
Bill Long commented, "Locks owns you losers." That's probably the funniest comment that we've had on this show in a long time. So thank you, Bill. Thanks to Bill and everyone and Justin and everybody, Chancey, in the comments. We do appreciate it. Thanks to everyone in the Seldom Used Reserve College Football Discussion Facebook group, especially Nelson Wilhite for all his help. John Chancey for being a good all-around guy. Uncle John McGee, as always. Thanks for each and one of you who follows the Sluggo podcast, each and every one of you who listens, likes, shares, and participates. And I can't read so good. On behalf of Marty, Seldom Used Reserve Coleman, Zach Locks Parker, I am Casey the Beef Cregan. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week here on Sluggo. Don't forget to check out rubbingtherock.com.
I'll be in first place next week.
I think we're done here.